Good morning. Welcome to Market Mashup, our recap of financial markets and what we have in store for the month of May that might help out with your stock and bond portfolio investments. I'm Scott Nasca, president of Generation Capital Management. Tough month for the month of April in financial markets as the Dow Jones was down 5%, the S&P 500 was down 4.2%, and Nasdaq was down 4.4%. So gave a little bit back from a strong first quarter that we had. In regards to the markets themselves, it was tough across the board. In pretty much all sectors of the U.S. stock markets were pretty much lower outside of utilities, and then energy was one of the ones that did not drop as much. Growth obviously performed worse than value, which is something that would lead to more concerns about higher risk exposure at this point in time, and so it's something just want to pay attention to. Growth has been the leader over the past few years as people have allocated their portfolios more aggressively, especially with the tech stocks. In terms of the earnings, AI-driven stocks continue to show stronger earnings. That's still a theme that we've seen since the beginning of 2023, where we've had more strong growth coming out of AI generator, AI product companies out there. If you just look at some of the bigger names, the Googles, the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Metas, those have been the strong performers going forward. And they still continue to produce strong reports, basically driven by AI, and obviously one of the bigger ones out there is NVIDIA as well, can't forget that. In terms of commodities, copper was stronger, gold was stronger, so we saw some moves in commodity prices that leads to stronger growth in overseas markets. We're starting to see some of the emerging markets as well as European markets coming out of recessions, and that will fuel more of the hard metals out there. And also gold is obviously basically a hedge against inflation, and something that has come about in the month of April as well. In terms of the bond sector, the 2-year versus 10-year, the 2-year was at 5.04%, the 10-year is at 4.69%, so we got a 35 basis point inversion. Big move in bonds, especially in the 10-year, went up 40 basis points for the month. Huge move. With rates being higher, that means bond prices are lower, and that leads to negative returns for bonds, which was what we have seen for the most of 2024 so far. As I did mention before, commodities still had a strong showing for the month of April, led obviously by copper and gold. One of the things that we want to focus on as we look for the month of May, we've got the Fed meeting coming up May 1st there. We also have more earnings coming out. We want to pay attention to that. We have an unemployment number coming out. GDP has slowed down. Inflation has risen. Those were numbers and data points that came out in April, which also caused some uncertainty in stock markets. You start to hear the term stagflation going out. That's when you see slower growth or low growth, no growth, and higher inflation. With the higher inflation numbers that came out over the last few months, it has put a little hold on the Federal Reserve's plans for lowering rates. There was talk earlier at the beginning of the year that they went anywhere from 5 to 6 rate cuts. Now it's down to 1 to 2 for this year, and there's still some talk that maybe they won't cut it all this year. So you have to pay attention to those numbers. You really do want to try and keep inflation in check and get that down to that magic 2% number. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our website, www.gencapmgmt.com. Team's ready to answer any questions that you might have. If your portfolio's a second opinion, just make sure they're allocated to meet your goals and objectives and risk tolerances. We have good financial planning services with John's Top Tips. Just take a look at that. If you have any ideas in terms of making sure that your portfolio is in gear for your retirement years, we're glad to give you a second opinion and just make sure you're headed in the right direction. Once again, my name is Scott Nasca, president of Generation Capital Management, and this is Market Mashup. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.